Rebuilding Gaza will cost more than $50 billion. To put that staggering figure into perspective, imagine constructing the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, more than 50 times over. This is not mere speculation. It is the sobering estimate provided by the World Bank, the United Nations, and a consortium of humanitarian agencies. But the true narrative of Gaza's reconstruction extends far beyond the calculus of cement and steel. It is a complex and contentious story about power, control, and the future of 2 million people trapped in one of the world's most protracted political crises. The question of who rebuilds Gaza will ultimately determine what, and for whom, Gaza becomes, the scale of destruction. Since October 7th, 2023, the Gaza Strip has endured one of the most intensive and devastating military campaigns of the 21st century. The scale of destruction is almost incomprehensible. According to detailed analysis of UN satellite imagery, over 66% of all buildings in the Gaza Strip have been damaged or completely destroyed as of late 2024. Entire neighborhoods have been erased from the map. Critical infrastructure, including hospitals, universities, schools, and apartment towers, lies in ruins, reduced to vast fields of rubble. The World Bank and UN Joint Assessment pegs the total reconstruction cost at a minimum of $53 billion. Of this, approximately $30 billion is allocated to direct physical damages, reconstructing hundreds of thousands of housing units, rebuilding roads, water networks, and electrical grids, and restoring public facilities. The remaining $23 billion covers immense economic losses, the disruption of essential services, and the monumental, dangerous task of clearing tens of millions of tons of debris. This rubble is not inert. It is a hazardous mixture of toxic dust, asbestos, and an untold number of unexploded ordnances, making its safe removal a project that could take years, if not decades. The human cost is immeasurable. Over 90% of Gaza's population has been displaced at some point during the conflict. Many now reside in fragile tents or desperately overcrowded shelters with limited access to food, clean water, and medical care. An entire generation of children has lost years of education. Parents have lost their livelihoods. The collective trauma runs deep, with countless families having lost not just their homes, but any tangible sense of a future. Governance, the real battleground. Money and materials can rebuild walls, but the architecture of governance will decide who gets to live within them and under what terms. This is the true battleground where the future of Gaza is being contested. One frequently proposed model is a transitional international authority, potentially led by a high-profile figure like former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. This entity would administer Gaza for a period of 3 to 5 years before handing over control to a Palestinian body. However, this proposal is viewed with deep suspicion by many Palestinians who associate Blair with the legacy of the Iraq War and see such a plan as a form of neo-colonial trusteeship. Another option is the Revitalized Palestinian Authority, PA, backed by Western and Arab powers. Their support, however, comes with strict conditions, stringent financial transparency, international oversight of reconstruction funds, and significant political reforms to curb corruption and improve legitimacy. The UN's refugee agency, UNRWA, which has long been the backbone of service provision in Gaza, insists it must be central to any humanitarian and reconstruction plan. Yet, it has already been sidelined in several proposals due to political pressure. Regional powers like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the UAE are pushing for a phased reconstruction process intrinsically tied to their control over key entry points, energy supply lines, and trade corridors. They see reconstruction as a strategic lever to expand their regional influence. Meanwhile, critics warn of the dangers of disaster capitalism, where reconstruction becomes a profit engine for well-connected foreign corporations and contractors, while local Palestinian companies and labor are marginalized. Some leaked proposals have even suggested temporarily relocating Gaza's population to allow for the construction of so-called smart cities on cleared land, a concept that terrifies many Palestinians who fear permanent displacement from their properties. Who wants to rebuild and why? The motivations of potential rebuilders are as varied as they are strategic. Qatar and Turkey have long been financiers in Gaza, funding salaries, hospitals, and schools. Their involvement is likely to continue, but the return on investment is measured not in currency, but in political influence and a strengthened regional foothold. The United States and the European Union have pledged significant aid, but it is heavily conditional. Their primary stipulations are that not a single dollar or euro can empower Hamas, that there must be absolute transparency in spending, and that they retain significant leverage over the future governance structure of Gaza. For them, reconstruction is a tool of political engineering. Saudi Arabia and Egypt view reconstruction as a historic opportunity to cement their roles as indispensable regional power brokers. Their interest lies in controlling border crossings, energy pipelines, and the flow of goods, thereby shaping Gaza's economic and political alignment for decades to come. Israel's position is fundamentally security-oriented. It is likely to insist on extensive buffer zones inside Gaza's borders, a permanent security veto over reconstruction projects, especially those related to infrastructure it deems dual use, and potentially decades of oversight. Some U.S. proposals have explicitly suggested a long-term Israeli role in monitoring reconstruction, ensuring it does not enhance the military capabilities of any future Gazan authority. For all these external actors, Gaza is not merely a humanitarian catastrophe. It is a geopolitical chessboard, and reconstruction is the most powerful move for securing long-term influence. Beyond aid, the lucrative business of reconstruction. $50 billion is not merely a flow of aid, it is a tsunami of contracts. The rebuilding of Gaza will require everything from cement and steel to complete electricity grids, desalination plants, telecommunications networks, and solar farms. The corporations and consortia that win these contracts stand to profit immensely. History, however, offers grim precedents. In post-2003 Iraq, billions of dollars in reconstruction funds were awarded to large Western corporations, with a significant portion lost to corruption, inefficiency, and projects that were never completed. In Lebanon after the Civil War, reconstruction funds famously disappeared into the hands of a small political and business elite, exacerbating public debt and social inequality. In Syria, the Assad regime has weaponized reconstruction, using it to reward loyalists and punish opposition-held areas. There is a palpable fear that Gaza could become the next chapter in this sorry history, a case where international contractors and investors reap the benefits while local families remain homeless. Compounding this is the threat of real estate speculation. For international investors, vast tracts of cleared land represent a potential gold mine for lucrative development projects. For Palestinians with legitimate land claims, this could mean permanent dispossession, dressed up as economic progress. Lessons from history. The annals of post-conflict reconstruction are littered with broken promises. After Lebanon's 15-year civil war, only a fraction of the billions pledged at international donors' conferences actually materialized. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, a massive influx of international aid created a culture of dependency rather than sustainable, locally owned stability. In Syria, humanitarian aid and reconstruction assistance became another battlefield, with funds used to bolster the regime's control. The critical question is whether Gaza will break this cycle or be condemned to repeat it. The pattern of high-profile pledges, followed by bureaucratic delays, political conditionalities, endemic corruption, and ultimately broken promises to the affected population, is a well-established one. Without unprecedented levels of coordination, transparency, and a genuine commitment to Palestinian agency, Gaza's reconstruction is destined to follow this familiar, tragic path. Security, the elephant in the room. Even if the funds are secured and the projects begin, a fundamental, haunting question remains. Can you genuinely rebuild while the threat of future violence looms? Modern warfare can destroy a city in a matter of weeks, but rebuilding it requires decades of sustained peace and investment. Cities like Sarajevo, heavily bombed in the 1990s, still bear the physical and psychological scars today. Iraq, more than 2 decades after the US-led invasion, continues to suffer from inadequate electricity and water services due to a combination of corruption, sanctions, and ongoing instability. For Gaza, every newly rebuilt school or restored hospital is not just a symbol of hope, but a potential target in the next round of escalation. Reconstruction without a durable political peace is a futile endeavor, akin to trying to fill a bucket riddled with holes. The US-Israeli plan, demilitarization, and Arab pacification. In a recent development that could redefine the parameters of the discussion, former US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced a joint framework aimed at a historic peace. The cornerstone of this plan is the complete demilitarization of Gaza and the outsourcing of internal security to a coalition of Arab forces, likely led by Egypt and Saudi Arabia. This proposed Arab coalition would assume the daunting task of neutralizing Hamas and preventing the rearmament of the Strip, a responsibility that Israel, for both political and security reasons, is unwilling to bear directly indefinitely. In return, Israel has expressed a conditional willingness to allow reconstruction to proceed, but only under strict external control over the import of all materials and the approval of all major projects. This framework strategically turns reconstruction into a tool of pacification. The release of funds and materials would be meticulously calibrated to the progress of disarmament and the consolidation of the new, externally imposed security regime. For the people of Gaza, this creates a devastating dilemma. The rebuilding of their homes and livelihoods becomes contingent upon their political acquiescence and the suppression of any form of resistance, armed or otherwise. The unresolved conflict, reconstruction as a political bargaining chip. The Trump-Netanyahu proposal highlights a brutal truth. Gaza's physical reconstruction is held hostage to the unresolved political conflict at the heart of the Israeli-Palestinian struggle. The plan to outsource security, while logistically conceivable, deliberately sidesteps the core issues of Palestinian sovereignty, the right of return for refugees, and the political aspirations of the Palestinian people. It merely shifts the locus of control from Israeli to a different set of external actors. In this paradigm, cement, water pipes, and medical equipment are stripped of their humanitarian purpose and transformed into leverage. Every shipment of construction materials becomes conditional on compliance with the new security arrangements. This model has been observed in other conflict zones, where rebuilding is used as a carrot to enforce political compliance. The profound danger is the creation of a reconstruction without self-determination, where the city's infrastructure might be rebuilt, but the political identity and rights of its inhabitants are systematically dismantled. The chasm between high-level political announcements and the grim reality of life in Gaza's rubble has never been wider, reducing a fundamental humanitarian imperative to a mere transactional item in a security deal. The human dimension. For the millions of Palestinians in Gaza, this debate is not an abstract discussion of geopolitics. It is a matter of daily survival. Will their children ever return to a functioning school? Will hospitals reopen with adequate supplies and electricity? Will they have clean water running from their taps and a reliable roof over their heads? Reconstruction has the potential to be a beacon of hope, a chance to heal and build a better future. Yet, it also carries the risk of deepening existing divisions. Donor conditions and political rivalries could favor one Palestinian faction over another, or one region at the expense of the rest. Instead of fostering unity and national purpose, the reconstruction process could become another sophisticated mechanism of control. perpetuating the very dynamics of conflict it purports to resolve. The chilling truth. For the ordinary people of Gaza, the pivotal question is not who writes the checks, but who pulls the strings. Money can reconstruct a skyline, but it is influence that rebuilds a society. That influence, shaping education, healthcare, economy, and governance, will define the character of Gaza not just for years, but for generations to come. So, who will rebuild Gaza? Will it be Qatar, Turkey, the Gulf states, the West, Israel, an Arab coalition, or a fractured mix of all? Each actor brings its own agenda, its own conditions, and its own vision for the future. And so, the most important question ultimately remains: who do you trust with the awesome responsibility of rebuilding a nation from the ashes?